The attack by Hamas on October 7 triggered a new major crisis in the Middle East. The immediate and fierce military reaction of Israel and the ongoing war in Gaza has shaped a new condition which dramatically influences political decisions and international geopolitical balances. Trapped in this war scenery, the civilian residents of the region have been trying to survive for the last 9 months in a regime of non-stop bombardment, in a landscape with destroyed infrastructure and with unprecedented shortages of water and food. Israel's ban on international media journalists from freely entering the area has created a situation where any information we have is based on the heroic efforts of Palestinian journalists living in Gaza, who under these tragic conditions and with continuous survival anxiety try to convey what is happening to all of us. To get some answers about the conditions prevailing in Gaza, about what the Palestinian journalists who are trapped there are facing, and about the future of journalism in the region, I talked to the awarded Palestinian journalist Shuruq As'ad, who for the last 30 years has worked in major news media and is among the first female journalists to appear on Palestinian television. Based on Jerusalem and Ramallah, she covers a wide range of hard news stories and features from Palestine, shedding light on the complexities and humanity within the region. Her dedication to her craft and her unwavering commitment to truth have earned her a reputation as a leading voice in Middle Eastern journalism. Shuruq is currently the correspondent for MCD Radio Monte Carlo Adualilla, a coach for the Women in News program by One Ifra, a coach and director in Palestine for the Women in News program, a media trainer with the French Media Development Agency, and a spokesperson for the Palestinian Journalist Syndicate. I am Nicholas Aronis, journalist at iMEdD, and this is Trapped in Gaza. Hello, Shuruq, and thank you for this discussion.
Can you please give us a picture of the current situation on the ground in Gaza?
The current days are not less critical and dangerous and bad and tragic as the war began. It's been on the same level since 7th of October till now. Now, I can tell you that Gaza is cut into normally, let's say, 2 pieces or 3 pieces. We have the north of Gaza and Gaza City. We have nearly 100 journalists still there. And also, we have good number, like around 800,000 Palestinians who refuse to leave their homes. We talk about Jabalia, we talk about Shuja'iyya, Gaza City, all those areas. And they are living in very, very, very hard starvation. When I say starvation, people are eating the sand, people are eating animal food. Our colleagues ask us even for water, for anything. Of course, very hard connection, no electricity, no fuel, no medicine, because Israel, as everybody know, till now 80% of Gaza's hospitals and schools and universities are demolished. Rafah had, like a month ago, nearly 1.5 million displaced families, children and women and journalists and so on. Situation is very, very bad. We lost till now 38,000 Palestinians. 17,000 of them are children and nearly 9,000 women. We have now more than 90,000 people injured. And when I say injured, badly injured, we have so many people now in Gaza without their legs, without arms, without even eyes. It's a terrible situation. And nobody could help them. Some maybe they could have saved themselves, but nobody can with this hard situation. We have more than 10,000 Palestinians under the rubble, missing. Nobody knows where they are. People even stop searching because they don't have equipment. My colleagues and their children are even getting sick because of pollution, of pandemics, of very bad food or water. Some drank the water of the sea, which is polluted and not really good in Gaza. Our colleagues we have nearly 1,500 displaced, some for the 8th time or 9th time. moving from one place to another. There is also 88 now, with a new data, we have 88 media offices bombed. So our colleagues thought that they will be safe in their offices, but they weren't, and they were thought they would be safe in their homes. They were bombed with their families. Some lost their lives, most of them with their families. And they went to the hospitals. They were attacked, injured, killed, arrested. Everybody has to know also, though now we talk about life and death, but we have to say that people lost their homes. Yani Israel bombed more than 200,000 buildings in Gaza. Those are their memories, their neighborhoods, their offices, their streets, their schools, their gardens, their cultural centers, everything. There's nearly 450 doctors who were killed. Israel arrested also so many. And I have to tell you, the testimonies we receive from people who were arrested is terrible, terrible. Nobody can really tolerate this. They were beaten badly, interrogated badly, humiliated, barely food. To go to this, there's a camp that Israel made for people whom are arrested from Gaza, women, men, boys, girls. Most of them has nothing to do with Hamas or anybody. They are civilians, and they have been badly treated. Some even went out nuts. Our colleagues, I visited one of my colleagues, the journalist Amir. He's nearby. He stayed only a month and a half. He lost 23 kilos. He's not the person I know. Traumatized, very afraid. He doesn't want to give any interviews. He doesn't want to work in journalism. It's like as if we're living in no place land. No, we're not in the same planet as any person. Israel arrested from our colleagues nearly 100. And some were out a couple of days. So let's say the people who really stayed for weeks and months are 80 between Gaza and West Bank. The Israeli army invaded their homes. And I tell you, each one of us journalists in West Bank or in Gaza, they don't know if they can be alive or injured or get food, but they are also very terrified of getting arrested. I think millions of times before I write any post, before I deliver any story on social media, when I go to Jerusalem or Jenin or Nablus, I pass through the checkpoints. They take my phone, they read everything in it. Sometimes I erase all the articles or the stories I do because they can arrest me. And they put the journalists and people under this emergency military law that Israel inherited from Britain mandate on Palestine. It's called administrative detention, where Israel has the right to invade any home, take anybody, without saying why they are arrested, without addressing them to court, without anyone visiting them, and without saying when this arrest will end.
You mentioned that there were 88 media outlets, local media outlets in Gaza were totally destroyed. Do you know the number of the media outlets that were in Gaza? How many local media outlets were?
I think they are all. 88. I think they are all the local Arab foreign media. I know that 24 media offices of those are radio stations, and they totally stopped working also. And so they are all. There's no media office in Gaza that works.
I think that we can all imagine the difficulty of covering a war that is happening in your backyard. But I would like you to tell us a bit more about the practical and technical challenges that journalists face in Gaza at the moment.
First of all, the main thing is to stay alive. This is the main thing for them, is try to survive, to maintain their life, not to die, not to get shelled, not to get bombed. They try to, as much as they can, take care of their children, mothers, fathers, to deliver for them food or water. They try to to run away from place to another, but they keep on working. And so many of the challenges that they have, besides staying alive and find food or shelter, is also to find internet so they can be able to be connected to their organizations, to the world, send their stories, because those local journalists are our only source there. And they know that for them, it's not only covering a story. For them, it's covering their life, covering their children's life, covering the future of the place they live in. They did not really have a choice, actually. No choice. They were obliged to cover, to film anything around them, and without them, we would not really know what's happening till now. The shelling, the massacres, the starvation, everything. So imagine the pollution they live in. Imagine the situation. They rush to cover news, do the story, do the interviews, try to walk around for an hour to find internet, stay for an hour till they upload, and then rush again before there's night because there's no electricity. This is the story of every day since 9 months.
And under these circumstances, what motivates them to continue? What do you think? You talk with them, you speak with them. What motivates them to continue?
I think, as I told you, it's not a motivation. It's they don't have a choice. They know that they are our eyes there. They know this. They want to record everything because this is, and they want things to stop. And they think if people see more massacres and more children killed and more doctors and more schools and more civilians, maybe they will pressure Israel to stop it. This is what they think. So they keep on motivate themselves, do stories, tell the story, do story, tell the story. Maybe things will stop. And because for them, they cannot, it's not only a profession, like it's work for them. No, so many of them actually now they work without any payment, especially those young journalists who came on board. I think it gives them some hope that maybe things will change. It gives them some hope that they can record what's happening with them. And because, as I told you, it's reporting themselves. They are the story. They are part of it. Yani, journalists are not like if you go to Greece to cover something happened. No, they are target. They are part of the story. They are part of the starvation. So it's their story and they have the tools, so they do it. And I think they are very brave.
And what about their psychological stress? How do they manage to cope with that?
I think they are all traumatized. This is my opinion. They are all filled with fear, with loss. But I think if they stop for a minute, this is what one of my colleagues told me. He told me if I'll stop for a minute to think what I feel, I will not really go on with this. So I think they have this survival mood now, this adrenaline to stay alive, to report. And I think they will, let me tell you something. All the colleagues who left Gaza, they could not go on, while they could a little bit go on inside Gaza, because they woke up and they had to deal with their traumas. While you run away from death, you don't have time to manage traumas and fear. This is my opinion. They are all traumatized. And I think they try to manage it, maybe sometimes because of their children, to stay strong, to go on work. But they are not okay. No, they are not okay.
How do you perceive the international media's portrayal of the conflict in Gaza?
This is a heartbreaking question for me, because the injustice kills me, actually, when I think about it. And I always knew, as a Palestinian and as a journalist, I know how international community they never gave justice to Palestinian cause at all. by reporting, by coverage, by anything. But I never thought that seeing those children killed and buried under rubbles and people starved, and in this century we're living in, while they lecture us for years about human rights and diversity and freedom of speech and international law and so on, and they disappeared. They totally disappeared. Yani they fell, or their ethics fall down, in my opinion. And Gaza is left alone. Human beings are left alone to be killed. The first months of the war, nearly all, a little bit, some little number of my colleagues, international colleagues, who tried to be accurate and investigate the information and to give the two-side story, and even to give the reference of the historical background and not to dehumanize Palestinians. But most of the international media and politicians and so on, they were speakers of spokespeople of the IDF, Israeli army. And so many of the videos, they said, we saw, we know, we report, now they are a lie. Israel itself reports in Haaretz and other, they say it was a lie. There was no cutting heads, there was no rape, there was no... Amazing how they stereotyped us, dehumanized us, watching the international media giving hours for Israeli army to speak and speak and speak, and when they bring a Palestinian, it will be for 2 minutes, and using the language of, and they will interrogate us. If you're a journalist, you have to really defend yourself. If you're a doctor, if you're a woman, if you're a child. They were part in this, in my opinion, in this genocide. And some continue to be part. Some woke up, maybe for their humanity, woke up, I don't know. And they started to investigate more. They want to know more. Still, everybody is afraid to accuse Israel of this genocide, is accuse Israel of this killing, to tell them to stop. And I say this every time, if this happens in Ukraine or Washington or Paris or Israel, people will stand on their feet all over all the international community. And I don't know, it's like, I used to have hope before in the international community, now not so much. I send my big thanks, seriously, to all the journalists who dared to write a story about the citizens, what's going on, about the history of Palestine, about anything. Highly appreciate this. And I thank a lot all the people who go out in the streets in Europe, in the States, all the students in the States. But still, it's going on. And it's going on, it's not stopping. Every day means more killing. And we lose nearly each day 50, 60 people. Each day. I think that the international community has to really ask themselves, do they really believe they are true believers of human rights and all those cliches they've been talking for years about human rights and about how to cover a story and how not to be biased and how to investigate and how to stay with the rights of people and with their freedom. And they did not really stick with it. And I don't think Palestinians will heal from this. It will take years and years and years and years and years to heal. Again, I have to thank everybody who stood out loud, because it meant a lot to people in Gaza and to us here in West Bank. But still, the decision is by the politicians, and it's not really changing.
What kind of support do you receive, if you received any, from international journalist organizations or colleagues?
Actually, for example, the IFJ supported us from day one, either by trying to have emergency amounts from anybody who wants to donate for the journalists, for the emergency needs, and now they are continuing to help us to find ways to support. For example, we're doing remote newsrooms, like in tents in areas for the journalists to gather, get internet, get, if we can, electricity, computers, try to help them go on with their work and life. We're So they are in our side from day one. They did advocacy. They did to help us to do lots of meetings with organizations, and they are helping us to prepare the files for the ICC to go to the criminal court to have Israel accountable for the killing of our colleagues. And then we had CPJ. They helped us in some emergency amount. Now, not much as before, but they helped. Though, in my opinion, they have to really respect the numbers that we and the names that we publish as local organization in Palestine, and not to insist on opening investigations their own. Because, as I said, if I will go cover a story of the United States, I will take the numbers of what the Americans say about the killing, or I don't go set investigation, because we really work hard to investigate every journalist who is killed and lost their life. Another thing, we have other organizations. UNESCO lately said they may help the journalists in some ways. Also, we had journalists who decided to write the story and what's going on with the journalists and with the human life. This was very important for us to publish the stories. We had journalists, either independent or freelancers, or who work with newspapers, who really reached out from Greece, from Italy, from Spain, from the United States, from Brazil, from so many areas. There are even some colleagues who call and say, like, we gathered 300 euros, we want to deliver them for the journalists to buy eSIM or blanket or tent or food. And it's really highly appreciated, though it's not easy to deliver amounts for our colleagues, but we try our best. And it's highly appreciated, this one-to-one in a journalist help. So yes, there are journalists who reached out, there are some organizations, but still it's not accountable or the same as according to what's happening on the ground. There should be big moves to really stop this, pressure Israel, pressure governments, write more, do campaigns more. And I don't like to tell anybody to do anything, but this is a human thing. Like, it's not only attack on Palestinian journalism scene, it should be seen as attack on the whole journalist scene or humanity in this earth we live in and we share. Because this is how I will react if this happens with anybody in Europe. So it's highly appreciated. Even they were very supportive in their words, those journalists who reached out and decided to do stories and about the journalists and who they are and how they died and how they were killed. It was very effective and highly needed and highly appreciated.
Given the current situation and all of these things that you have mentioned earlier, how do you see the future of journalism in Gaza? Is there a future for journalism in Gaza?
It's a very hard question to answer. When you see 80% of Gaza or 70% no more exists, there's no civil society, there's no streets, there's no offices, it's total destruction. So I'm very afraid when I think about this, because in my opinion, what I think also about is not only how we can save their lives, how we can deliver for them food or blankets, but also how we can help them to stand up again as journalists who did very important job in this situation, and how to let them regain their trust in this career and in journalism and in the community around them and in the role and to rebuild their institutions, their media organizations. This will really it will need time, it will need lots of work. I don't see it ending, no, because if it would have been, if it will end, it would have ended before and during this war. They could have ended their work and said, we will just take care of our lives and children and we don't want to do anything. But they continued to work. So in my opinion, the scene will stay. We need it a lot. It's very important that we keep it and we help them to go on reporting and working and filming. But it will be very hard circumstances that needs lots of integration and from so many organizations and colleagues all over the world. They cannot be left alone more than this. But no, I don't see it ending. I see it still, it will stay a very powerful scene. They were very powerful as local journalists. And they will keep on doing their job because they did it on on the times of the genocide. So this is the most critical time, on the times of death, without anything. So it won't be easy, but I have faith in them that they will go on.
If you could convey only one message to the international community about the situation in Gaza and the situation journalists face in Gaza, what would it be?
It will be, think of yourself as a journalist in Europe, in any place in the world, in the situation Gaza journalists are in right now. Think how you will stand to live, to feel, to work, to report, to survive in those circumstances. Then tell me what you think. And stop for people who are doing judgments and doing unethical journalism, in my opinion. They will be, in my opinion, they are part in this genocide because they did not stand up for human rights and for ethical journalism. For people who really stood up, stood aside, give support, no matter what it was. If it was to explain to anybody what's going on, if it was to write anything, it was to send $1, if it was to just say that what they feel or to deliver the story of my colleagues, I thank them, or even to go to the streets. But I tell everybody, all those ethics you've been talking about in Europe and in the international, between brackets, civilized world, please use it the same on my colleagues in Gaza. They are the same human beings, and those ethics and human rights do not apply on certain DNA. It applies for everybody. And the lives of my colleagues is precious as any other journalist is hearing me right now. So thank you for all the support anybody, any journalist, any organization did. It really means a lot in those circumstances, in the genocide.
Mixed and sound design by Aris Athanasopoulos. Produced by Panagiotis Menegos. You can listen to more podcasts by visiting podcast.imed.org.